Before we start, let me know where you are tuning in from in the comments. Perhaps you are someone who believes that messages directed at you personally are just marketing ploys designed to make you feel special. Maybe you think that when public figures claim to have personal communications, they're really speaking to everyone and no one simultaneously. Or perhaps you've never stopped to consider that sometimes there is something so personal that it can only be addressed to one person at a time, and its meaning would be diluted if shared with a crowd. This conversation is for you. I want to share something I've never spoken publicly about before, something that can only be said directly to you, because to say it to everyone would change its meaning and take away its power to help the person who needs it most right now. This isn't about financial strategies or future ventures, or any of the public topics typically associated with my statements. This is about something far more intimate and urgent, a recognition that you are standing at a crossroads in your life at this very moment, and the decision you make will influence not only who you become, but also what you can contribute to society in the years to come. I want to offer you this message because I believe you are the one who most needs to hear it. Not because you fit some demographic, but because something in your current circumstance has led you to this exact moment, where this information could dramatically alter the course of your life. What I have to say is simple yet profound. You are on the verge of abandoning something that holds more value than you realize. And walking away right now would be the greatest mistake you could make. I know this because I can see the signs, even if you can't recognize them in yourself. You've been striving towards something important, not just a financial milestone or a career ambition, but something deeper that reflects who you aspire to be and what you wish your life to represent. However, you've faced obstacles that seem insurmountable, setbacks that make you doubt your ability to achieve what you set out to do, and criticism or apathy from those whose support you once relied on. You've started questioning whether your goals were realistic, whether you truly have the means to succeed, and whether the sacrifices, time, energy, and emotional strain are worth it. Most dangerously, you've begun to justify giving up by telling yourself that your original aspirations were naive or overambitious, that lowering your expectations is a form of maturity, not defeat. But you're wrong, and I need you to understand why before you make a choice that you'll regret for the rest of your life. The thing you are considering walking away from is not just a goal or a project. It's the very part of you that believes you can create something of significance, the part that refuses to accept limitations others impose on themselves, the part that sees possibilities where others see only barriers. If you abandon this now, it won't just be a shift in your plans. You'll be killing the most valuable part of your character, the part that gives you the ability to make contributions no one else can. I've been in your shoes more times than I care to remember. There were moments, while navigating the financial systems and making investment decisions, when pressing on felt impossible, when the rational choice appeared to be cutting losses and moving on to more achievable pursuits. I was faced with the collapse of several key financial ventures. I had risked everything from past successes, and I found myself on the brink of losing not just my wealth, but my entire influence in global finance. Advisors urged me to concentrate on stabilizing my existing investments rather than attempting to transform the entire economic landscape. The logical choice would have been to scale back, to accept that trying to reform the entire financial system and challenge entrenched power structures was more than any individual could achieve. But something within me refused to accept that logic. Not because I was confident of success, but because I understood that the work itself, the mission to change global financial systems for the better, was more important than my personal comfort or financial security. I realized that if I backed down now, not due to insurmountable obstacles, but out of fear of the unknown, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I would constantly question what could have been accomplished if I had only persisted through the challenges. More importantly, I understood that the person I would become by giving up would be fundamentally different from the person I would become by continuing to fight for what I believed in, even in the face of immense resistance. The choice wasn't really between financial success and failure. It was about choosing whether to become someone who abandons their deepest commitments when they become difficult, or someone who holds steadfast to their values and vision. even when it requires sacrifice and enduring uncertainty. That realization changed how I saw the challenges ahead. Instead of interpreting obstacles as proof that my goals were unrealistic, I began to view them as the price of attempting something truly meaningful. The resistance I was facing was not a sign of failure. It was the evidence that I was working on something that truly mattered. This is what I need you to understand about your own situation. The difficulties you're experiencing are not signs to abandon your efforts. They are signs that you are pursuing something significant enough to be difficult. Easy problems don't transform systems. Comfortable challenges don't forge the kind of character that enables you to make extraordinary contributions. The resistance you face is not bad luck. It is the inevitable reaction of a world that resists change and innovation. Most people give up exactly at the point when persistence would have made the difference between ordinary failure and extraordinary success. They see difficulty as evidence that their goals are impossible, rather than as evidence of their importance. But you have the opportunity to be different. You can choose to view your challenges as the cost of pursuing something worthwhile, rather than as reasons to lower your expectations or abandon your goals. The specific challenge you're considering walking away from might seem like just one project or goal among many options. But it's more than that. It's the manifestation of your belief that you can create something of value, that your efforts can make a difference, that the world can be improved through persistence and innovation. If you abandon this belief now, you will make it harder to access it in the future. You'll teach yourself that when things become difficult, retreat is the reasonable response. But if you persist through these challenges, you will prove to yourself that you're capable of continuing when continuing seems impossible. You will develop the kind of resilience and determination that makes future challenges easier to face, not more intimidating. This isn't about blind optimism or ignoring real limitations. It's about understanding the difference between obstacles that require innovative strategies and those that require abandoning important goals. Most of the financial and political challenges you're facing are solvable if you approach them with creativity and persistence. The question isn't whether solutions exist, but whether you'll continue searching for them when the process becomes uncomfortable or uncertain. I'm sharing this with you because I see something in your situation that you may not be able to see clearly right now. You're closer to a breakthrough than you realize. The decisions you've made, the expertise you've gained, and the networks you've built, these are investments. If you give up now, they will be lost. But if you continue, they will compound and accelerate your progress. The next 6 months of your life will shape whether you become someone who overcomes great challenges or someone who retreats when persistence becomes difficult. The choice you make will not just affect this particular financial venture or cause, but will define how you approach every future challenge that demands sustained effort and courage. Those who believe in your vision are relying on you to prove that their faith in your potential was well placed. But more importantly, the version of yourself that set these bold goals deserves the opportunity to see what you can truly achieve when you refuse to accept defeat. This realization changed how I approached the financial barriers we faced. Instead of seeing obstacles as evidence that our goals were unrealistic, I started to see them as the price of attempting something meaningful, something that truly matters. The resistance we faced wasn't a sign to retreat. It was proof that we were working on something important. Let me share with you the specific moment when I almost gave up completely, because I believe it mirrors where you might find yourself right now. This moment taught me the difference between temporary defeat and permanent failure. It was December 23, 2008. I was alone in my office at the hedge fund, staring at a computer screen showing our financial standing. We had enough liquidity for only 6 more weeks. Several of our most significant investments had failed, each one draining millions of dollars and months of effort. The media had labeled me a failed financier, accusing me of risking it all on hopeless ventures. Some of my closest allies were urging me to cut my losses and abandon our most ambitious projects. But the worst part wasn't the financial stress or public mockery. The worst part was the voice inside my head that started saying, maybe they're right. Maybe I've been fooling myself about what's possible. Maybe the smart thing to do is admit this isn't working and pivot to something more secure. I had reached the moment that I think you're in now, the point where continuing feels like a denial of reality when everyone around you seems to have a more practical approach, where your vision feels naive, almost embarrassing. That night, I wrote an email to my team suggesting that we scale back operations and consider selling off assets. But I didn't send it. Instead, I took a step back. I reread the original mission behind our work, the larger purpose that had driven all our actions, the belief that we could change the world's economic systems, promote financial transparency, and create better global financial markets. And in that moment, I knew that abandoning this mission wasn't just about changing strategies. It was about who I would become. Would I be someone who abandoned my commitment when times got tough? Or would I remain true to my values, even when it meant enduring immense difficulty? I decided to reject the logic of giving up. I wrote a new email to my team, expressing why I believed we could still succeed, why our previous setbacks had only given us the knowledge we needed to approach the future more effectively. That decision didn't just change the course of our work, it gave me the resilience I needed to face challenges with a renewed sense of purpose. 3 months later, we found the right solutions. Within 2 years, our approach led to a revolutionary shift in financial systems, and we secured new partnerships that transformed everything. But the true victory wasn't the success. It was the lesson that persistence, even in the face of overwhelming odds, was the key to making a meaningful difference. I had drafted most of the message explaining that we had learned valuable lessons, but that market conditions and political challenges had proven too difficult to overcome. But before I sent that email, I did something that completely changed my perspective. I printed out the original mission statement I had written years earlier, the document that explained why I believed financial markets needed reform and transparency for the future stability of the global economy. Reading those words again, I was reminded of the clarity and conviction I had felt when I first wrote them. The financial systems we were trying to transform hadn't become less important just because we faced setbacks. The need for a fairer and more transparent financial system hadn't disappeared because we were facing resistance from powerful forces. What had changed wasn't the mission. It was my confidence in my ability to accomplish it. Temporary setbacks had convinced me that the long-term goals we were working toward were unrealistic. As I sat there holding that original mission statement, I realized that giving up wasn't about accepting practical limitations. It was about deciding who I wanted to be. Someone who abandons his deepest commitments when they become difficult, or someone who continues fighting for what he believes in, regardless of the hardships. I deleted the email announcing our retreat. Instead, I spent the next few hours drafting a new message to my team, explaining why we would continue, why our challenges were teaching us what we needed to know, and why our next attempt would succeed because of everything we had learned from our failures. I sent that email at 3 a.m., fully committed to the belief that the work itself was more important than my personal comfort or reputation. A few years later, we had secured critical financial partnerships that not only saved our vision, but validated everything we had been working for. But the real victory wasn't the financial success or the public recognition. It was the understanding that I had learned to persist through the kind of doubt and difficulty that stops most people from achieving anything extraordinary. This is what I need you to understand about your situation. You are at your own December 23rd moment right now. You're facing a choice between becoming someone who gives up or someone who continues despite how impossible it may seem. The voice telling you to be realistic and practical isn't wisdom. It's fear disguised as rationality. The people advising you to lower your expectations or try something easier aren't necessarily wrong about the challenges you face, but they're wrong about what those challenges mean. Difficulty is not proof of impossibility. It's evidence that you're working on something meaningful. Easy problems have already been solved. The hard problems are where you have the opportunity to make contributions that no one else can make. Right now, you might be surrounded by people who think your goals are unrealistic, who point to your setbacks as evidence that you should lower your expectations, who suggest that persistence in the face of repeated failure is just stubbornness. But those people have never created anything extraordinary themselves. They don't understand that breakthroughs always seem impossible right up until they become inevitable. They don't understand that the greatest financial and social changes always seem impossible until they eventually become inevitable. They mistake the resistance faced before every meaningful accomplishment for evidence that it can't be done. The truth is, you're probably much closer to achieving success than anyone around you realizes, including yourself. The strategies you've developed, the networks you've built, the understanding you've gained through your failures, all of these represent investments that will compound rapidly once you gain momentum. Most people give up just before the returns from their efforts begin to materialize. They interpret the long stretch of hard work without visible results as evidence that their strategy isn't working. In reality, it's evidence that they're on the brink of success, approaching the point where their efforts will start yielding exponential returns rather than linear ones. This is what I want you to do over the next 30 days. Commit to continuing as though giving up is not an option. Don't focus on the end goal or try to predict whether you'll eventually succeed. Instead, focus on the task at hand, solving the immediate problems, and maintaining forward momentum, no matter how uncertain the future feels. Over the next 30 days, you'll likely discover new resources, solutions, and capabilities that you didn't even realize you had. You'll find that many of the obstacles that seemed insurmountable become manageable once you stop questioning whether to continue and start figuring out how to continue. Most importantly, you'll reconnect with the reason you started this work in the first place. You'll remember the vision that motivated you, the one that brought you here before the setbacks, the skepticism, and the criticism made you question your judgment and abilities. After 30 days of dedicated effort, free of the option to retreat, you'll be in a better position to evaluate your situation objectively. You'll make decisions based on real evidence, not fear, frustration, or the opinions of those who don't understand what you're trying to achieve. But I believe that after those 30 days of complete commitment, you won't want to give up anymore. You'll have rediscovered the satisfaction of working towards something meaningful, and you'll rebuild the confidence that previous setbacks had eroded. The message I have for you is this: you are capable of more than you currently believe. The work you're doing is more important than the immediate evidence suggests, and walking away now would rob the world of contributions only you can make. Don't let temporary difficulties convince you to abandon long-term possibilities. Don't let the opinions of people who have never attempted anything like this influence your commitment to goals that reflect your deepest values and highest aspirations. You started this work because you believed it was important. That belief was right then, and it's still right now. The only thing that has changed is that you've encountered the resistance that always comes with meaningful work. Push through that resistance. Trust your original vision. Give yourself the chance to discover what's possible when you refuse to accept defeat. The world needs what you're working on, even if it doesn't yet recognize that need. But more than that, you need to complete this work to become the person you're capable of being. Don't give up, not now, not when you're so close to proving to yourself and others what persistence makes possible. Share this message with someone who might be on the verge of giving up on something important. But remember, this message was written specifically for you because you're the one who needs to hear it most. Subscribe if these conversations help you find the strength to continue when continuation seems impossible. And remember, the greatest achievements in human history have come from people who refused to give up exactly when giving up seemed most reasonable. Every person who has ever changed the world has faced a moment just like the one you're facing now, when persistence seemed foolish, when the evidence suggested retreat, and when everyone around them advocated for accepting limitations that they refused to accept. Here's what I've learned beyond the inspirational stories. The moment when giving up seems most reasonable, actually the moment you're closest to breakthrough. Not because the universe rewards persistence, but because that's when you've eliminated all the approaches that don't work and are on the verge of discovering the one that does. You've been building towards something far greater than you realize. Every setback has taught you something essential. Every failure has eliminated a path you'll never need to take again. Every person who has told you to lower your expectations has shown you how much resistance your vision generates in minds that have accepted conventional limitations. You are closer than you think. Keep going.